Hi everyone, it's Lena and welcome back to my channel. And today I'd like to talk about cultural differences between Germany and Ukraine while drinking my coffee with a straw because I'm channeling my inner Ukrainka, Budmo. I feel like I'm in a different location every time I'm filming, and excuse the echo, I'm moving into a new room and it's not fully furnished yet, so yeah, but at least I have better lighting in here, so I'm filming here. Also, another disclaimer, excuse me if I sound a bit sick. I was sick the past week, I had no voice, it's now coming back, so I thought I would seize this opportunity and film this video. It might seem like I'll be hating on Ukraine quite a bit in this video, but don't get me wrong, I love Ukraine, okay? But it's obviously not perfect, and neither is Germany, so I'll have cultural differences that benefit Germany and that benefit Ukraine, just saying. But I'd like to start out with the thing I would probably miss the most if I would live in Ukraine for a longer period of time, and that would be drinking water from the tap. Like, having lived in Germany all my life, I kind of take it for granted that I can just take water from the tap and drink it. In Ukraine, you cannot do that. You have to buy it from the shop. Thankfully, I did not have to do that because my hotel did it for me. Huge shout out to Hotel Ukraina, they're amazing. But I need to add that not every German drinks the water from the tap, although it's perfectly safe to do so. I think I know of people who think that I'm disgusting for drinking the tap water, but if it's safe to drink, I'm not going to waste my money on artificial water. Also, there's some sort of stereotype that Germans prefer sparkling water. I personally do not confirm it. I do not like it because it tastes artificial. Also, fun fact, I prefer Berlin tap water to Hamburg tap water. Now that we're already talking about drinks, let's talk about restaurants. Ukraine, what is wrong with your tiny portion sizes? At least in every Ukrainian restaurant I've been to so far, the portion sizes were like tiny. Okay, the prices are really cheap, like the average 6 or 7 euros you pay for a meal are nothing compared to 12, 13 that you pay in Germany. And I'm talking about downtown Kiev here, so otherwise it might maybe be even cheaper. But not if I can eat twice as much. But pleasant thing that I noticed is that waiters oftentimes introduce themselves by name. They would come up to your table and be like, my name is blah 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 and I'm your waiter tonight, and then they will hand you the menu. Also, they will ask you whether you want your drink before your meal or with your meal, and especially this introduction thing would be really weird in Germany. It's like, good evening, here's your menu, would you like a drink already? Yes, they ask you for a drink even before you look into the menu, because the drinks menus are more or less similar everywhere. But it low-key stresses me out every single time because I need to look at the menu first. Going to restaurants obviously involves paying a bill, and that is some task in Germany, especially if you go as a group. And if you thought just split it evenly among however many people you are, no, we're not going to do this here. We are splitting it down to the penny. Not equally, but everyone pays the exact amount that they have ordered. And I think it's the only fair thing to do, because some people order cheaper stuff, some people order something more expensive, and it would not be fair if you would split it evenly. Waiters will oftentimes ask you whether you pay the bill together or separate. Obviously, paying it separate would be the easiest thing to do, but Actually, all the time when I'm with my family in a restaurant, they will say all together and then just pick it apart, and it takes like at least 10 minutes to sort out who is paying for what, especially because my family still pays for me. But yeah. Also, I should mention that this whole concept of guys paying for girls is not really a thing here, but in Ukraine it totally is. In Germany you'd still split, like everyone pays for themselves. This is kind of the established method here, especially if you don't know each other that well. But in Ukraine it's like a standard thing that a guy will pay for a girl pretty much all the time, no exceptions, and not even only on dates. And it does not help if you try to convince them that you can pay for yourself. Guys want to be seen as a provider. However, in Germany, women want to show that they can pay for themselves and take care of themselves independently. Do not expect any special treatment just because you're a girl. Equality is like the main thing in German dating culture. But now that we're talking about dating culture, I have to mention directness from guys in this whole getting to know phase. I mean, Germans are also known for being direct, but in another way than Ukrainians are. Germans are more known for being very honest when you ask them for their opinions. And I guess I do speak my mind, but only with people I am entirely comfortable with. Otherwise, I will sugarcoat my opinion. Okay, I will still tell you what I think, but I will not be saying the exact thing I am thinking just because I don't want to offend the person. But what I mean by Ukrainian directness is that people are really open-minded and not shy when they are interested in getting to know another person. Like, if they're interested in you, you'll just know. Whereas in Germany, you kind of have to guess, especially if you're a girl who is interested in a guy. Shout out to my school crushes right here. Like, smiling and eye contact are not going to cut it when you want a person to notice you. You have to get up and talk to them yourselves. And that's some task. I mean, I have social anxiety and I find it tough enough to strike up a normal conversation without romantic intentions, and let alone flirting. I don't know how to do it. I just don't know how to do it. But if you're a woman approaching a guy, it will be appreciated. But in Ukraine, people are just going to approach you when they are interested. I don't really get chatted up from strangers, especially from guys, but the only times that happens was either online, by foreigners in Germany, or abroad, also in Ukraine. Yeah, but it's definitely something that I had to get used to. Also on tandem, like, I exchanged a couple of messages with the person and they would say things like, "Can I get your number?" or "Let's meet up when you're in Ukraine." I'm just like, whoa, I don't even know you. You're a complete stranger. You could be, I don't know. It was definitely something I had to get used to, because in Germany it's not a thing. But at least you will know where you stand, and that's a good thing. So at least it will get you somewhere, just saying. Now that I've talked about guys, let's talk about women and appearance. It's no secret that Ukraine has a reputation for having really beautiful women, and that is true. At least when you see Ukrainian women on the street, they always look really put together, like from hair to makeup, clothing, nails. They just always make an effort. Like women in their 20s would have like a full face of makeup, nails professionally done, walk in heels even in whatever extreme weather. Like, how does your makeup not run down? Because even 25 degrees in Kiev feel like 40, and in the summer I often just leave out makeup at all because I don't want it to run down. There I am. Okay, I started to care more about clothing recently, but my makeup routine is like really minimalistic. I cover up any sort of flaws like under eye circles and pimples, but okay, at school I was known for having like bright red lipstick, but I don't really do that anymore either. I don't even do my makeup every single day. I'm lazy, but okay. And with nails, I have the tendency to scratch off my nail polish pretty much immediately after applying it. I cannot walk in heels very well, but given my height, I'm 1.80 m, so I'm at least 1.85 m on heels. It does get me weird looks. I don't really care, but I cannot walk on them very well. But this is also what I love about Berlin, that as long as you're dressed, nobody will care how you're dressed. There are so many crazy creeps in this city. I'm probably not even in the bottom 10%, but I cannot even count the times I went to like the supermarket literally in my pajamas, but okay. I feel like in Ukraine that would be unthinkable. I was staying near Chrzczatyk, sorry if I pronounced that wrong, when I was in Kiev, and when I walked around that area in the evenings, I just felt really underdressed. Okay, when I'm traveling, I don't exactly pack my fanciest clothing. Like when I'm traveling, I pay more attention to practicability. Is that a word? I don't know, you'll know what I mean. And not exactly to fashionability. But for Ukraine, I kind of made an exception also with makeup, because especially when I'm flying with hand luggage and you can only pack a limited amount of liquids, I just leave it at home. But for Ukraine, I still brought it because I was trying to fit in, but no, I was still underdressed. In this context, I would also like to mention this whole career versus family thing. In Western Europe, it's no secret that women these days tend to value their career a bit more, and our birth rates are going down. But in Ukraine, even if you have a successful career, there will always be pressure on people to get married and start a family. And it's not really a rare occasion that people get married and eventually have kids by their mid-20s. Now think about it, I am now 22, I will graduate from university next year at 23, and I cannot imagine getting married anytime soon. I actually cannot imagine it at all. And Germans these days, also like Western Europeans in general, don't really feel the need to get married. Okay, our divorce rates are above 50%, and divorces are expensive. That might be a thing, but yeah, it's not really a rare occasion when parents have kids and they are not married. Like my parents were never married either. Yeah, as I said, when I graduate, I want to like be financially stable before anything else, and I depended on my parents for way too long, and I want to be financially independent, and that would be like my main goal for my mid-20s. Yeah, in Germany we do everything a bit later. I think I recently saw a statistic, like the average age where people have their first child would be 30, and my parents were also fairly old when they had me. My mum was 33 and my dad was 40. Also, I noticed how educated Ukrainian people are. Like, I legit feel dumb next to them sometimes. Like, next to the Ukrainians I know. Like, what have they studied? Medicine, law, political science, computer science, such things. And those are programs that probably require really high grades in school to get into them. And yet here I am, I study photography, and for any sort of creative degree, your grades do not matter. Like, you have to hand in the portfolio, like work samples, and you get in based on that. And my grades really were not high. And I realize photography is not going to make me rich, but I wanted a profession that I love, and I want to do something that I love doing if I have to work a job for like 40 years, so at least. I just said my grades were not the highest. Yeah, I think in Eastern Europe it's also valued more, like from parents. You have a lot more pressure from parents, I think. It seems like it. And I'm actually, in fact, the first person in my family to have received her Abitur diploma. Abitur is the highest school diploma you can get in Germany. It's the equivalent to Zerno in Ukraine or A-levels in the UK, if you know what I mean. And I think only like half of students in Germany actually finish school with their Abitur. You can drop out after grade 10 with your middle school diploma, but that does not make you eligible to go to university. Also, difference is that in Ukraine you only have 11 years of school, whereas in Germany you have 13. Okay, some schools have 12, some have 13. It depends on the school you go to. I did 13, so I graduated when I was 19, then took a gap year and started university at 20 and will finish at 23. That's also why I feel a bit uneducated, because I will have my bachelor's degree at 23, whereas in Ukraine most people already have a master's degree at that age or even before that, so either 22 or 23, because since they graduate after 11 years they will be 17 and most people go straight to university. So some people have like a master's degree at 23. I don't even think I will do my master's degree because, again, I study photography. You don't even need a university degree if you want to be a photographer, not necessarily. You can just start out by yourself, but I want to increase my chances, so I still took it at university. But I don't think I will do my master's degree and want to start working by next year. So yeah, it's just a bit weird that people will be 3 years younger than me and are still at the same level at university. I didn't really know where to fit in this particular topic, but I'm just going to talk about it now because this is probably one of the biggest cultural differences between Germany and Ukraine, and that is this whole concept of nationalism, national pride kind of thing, because in this case Germany and Ukraine really could not be any more different. And I first noticed that when I walked the streets of Kiev and I noticed a lot of like private people just hanging Ukrainian flags from their balconies or from their windows, and actually how many people would own a Ukrainian flag. And in Germany that's like so uncommon. For example, I own a Ukrainian flag, but I don't own a Germany flag. But like the only time Where Germans show some sort of national pride would be when there's some sort of sports event. Most importantly, football championships. Then Germans would run around on the streets with their Germany flags. And even that was not common until like the early 2000s, maybe like 2006, when Germany hosted the football championships. Before that, it was just frowned upon. And if you, other than that, show any sort of pride for Germany, you'll be labelled as a Nazi. And by the time you learn about a certain period of German history, you will not be proud of this country anymore. And in fact, people are still ashamed of what happened like 80 years ago almost. Even though it was way before that time. Even me. But Ukrainians, no, they are very proud of being Ukrainian and they shove it in everybody's faces. But then historical differences, I mean, Ukrainian culture was always suppressed by aggressive neighbors, and that's why it's so important for them to show what their culture is and to be proud of it. But that sparked a lot of controversy in Germany recently. I mean, I was very involved with this whole pro-Ukrainian protest thing, and we had a bit of a problem with some of our slogans. A very popular slogan was Ukraina ponad uсе, which means Ukraine above all. And we cannot really use that anymore, okay? It was not officially forbidden, but German media used that against us and labeled us as Nazis. And we even had right-wing parties show up to our protests. In Ukraine, this would be a very unproblematic phrase. And I thought at first, like during my first protests, I would not shout that either, because I was like, but it does not actually mean that Ukrainians want to put their country above all other countries. No. But Germans would easily interpret it that way, because we used to have such slogan as well, like Deutschland über alles. It was a line in our national anthem, but it was scrapped after World War II, and that phrase is now prohibited. I honestly wish I could have this kind of pride for my homeland as well, but I see my nationality more like a privilege, but not something to be proud of. I know I literally said 2 seconds ago that it is a privilege to live in Germany, but let me actually tell you about the thing I like the least about life in Germany, and it will sound like I'm a spoiled brat, but it's actually this whole shops being closed on Sunday thing. Okay, when I was still working in retail myself, I kind of valued it, but now that I don't, yeah. But Germans value Sunday as a day of rest and as a day off without work, and therefore every shop apart from petrol stations will be closed. Okay, restaurants will still be open, because if people have a day off, they are more likely to eat out, and restaurants will mostly close on Monday instead. And metro is obviously, and all public transport would be running, but not as often as during the week. I know a lot of people like this whole thing when everything slows down and like a day of rest, you know? But now that I'm more occupied during the week with uni, I think it would be great to have like an extra day to run errands. And now I now have to fit it all into Saturday. Okay, right now it's not such an issue because I don't have a 5-day week anymore, but when I was still in school and had like 5 full days, I would literally have to run any sort of errands on Saturday, and Most people do that, so it will be really crammed. I now have to tell you a story because I used to work in a supermarket, mostly on Saturday late shift, and then everyone would come in like at 11 p.m, half an hour before we closed, and literally do like they're ready for the apocalypse kind of shopping just because shops would be closed for one day. Yeah, and that was annoying, and it's also the reason why it's quite full on Saturday as well, just because everyone has to do their shopping on Saturday, because they can't do that on Sunday, and that's why I don't really like that. And when I was in Ukraine, I literally asked the receptionist in the hotel whether things would be open on Sunday. She was quite amused at my question. I was like, yeah, I'm from Germany and everything's closed on Sunday. But yeah, everything will be running on Sunday in Ukraine. It's just Germany with this rule. But like, if other countries can do it, like run everything on Sunday, why can't Germany do it? Come on. Let's continue to bash Germany. I've made fun of this so many times, and I'm not hesitating to do it another time. Some of you might know what I'm going to say. Well, Germany is one of the highest developed countries, but not in terms of digitalization. We're so behind. Even countries that are a lot poorer and less developed than us, like Romania and Ukraine, are way ahead of us in this case. And I even heard from like refugees who have come to Germany after the war started, like how surprised they were of our lack of digitalization, and they said, well, maybe we can teach Germany something in this case. Ukraine has like some digital perks that would just be unthinkable in Germany. There's this app in Ukraine, I think it's called Dia, and it's basically a digitalized version of your passport. And that would just be flat out unthinkable in Germany, just also because Germans are very serious about data protection. In Ukraine, you can digitalize your passport and your important documents and have them all in this app. Whereas in Germany, you cannot even apply for a passport online. But okay, at least you can book an appointment at the registration office online. But you have to make an appointment, then go to the registration office yourself and fill out some forms and stuff. And then you will have to go there again to pick up your ID if it's finished. But these forms you might as well could fill in online, but no, you have to go there in person. And also, like, this whole online classes thing was not much of a thing in Germany before COVID. And when COVID got like really bad and our uni moved to online classes, there would be always in every lecture some sort of disruption, just because people would not really handle this digital technologies very well. And yeah, Ukraine is obviously a lot further than that. What really surprised me is Ukrainians have online classes during a war. There's no excuse why you could not continue your studies in Ukraine. Not even the war will get in between you and your classes. If Germany would be at war, we wouldn't have classes. No way. We even have concepts such as hitzefrei and kältefrei. Like, hitzefrei is if it gets like more than 30 something degrees by a certain time of the day, the school would cancel. And kältefrei would be if it's very slippery and you would risk injuring yourself on the way to school or to university, then they will cancel it as well. Also, teachers go on strike quite often in public schools that results in cancelling classes, but in Ukraine you have no excuse. I wanted to say something else. That was actually my main point, and I still haven't mentioned it. Like this whole internet and phone access thing. We do not have like a very developed network everywhere. I oftentimes travel from Berlin to Hamburg by train, and if you do that, you have to go through Mecklenburg-Vorpommern, which is a federal state in the northeast of Germany. And I would say this is probably the least digitally developed area in Germany, because for a large part of that area, you don't even have service. Like no internet, no phone service, nothing. And I've had better phone service in Pripyat, just saying. And Pripyat is a ghost town that obviously has no electricity, but you have phone service there that pretty much says it all. But I'm really amused that even if Ukraine is so digitally developed, you still have to get your metro ticket from an actual person, but I kind of think that's so charming. Like, okay, it requires talking to a stranger in Ukrainian, but still I kind of like that. In Germany, you would get your ticket either at a ticket machine or from an app. Okay, some like newspaper shops, kiosks, whatever, sell them too, but mostly you will get them from a machine. That's the most common way to get your metro ticket in Germany. But in Ukraine, they have like actual cash desks, and you go up there and you order a ticket from an actual person. I still remember the first time I had to buy a metro ticket in Kiev. I would wait until everyone else was gone. There were a few people ahead of me in this line, and I would wait until they were gone. And then I would go up and say, like, "Один квиток, будь ласка, дякую." It was actually the first time I actually spoke Ukrainian in Ukraine, and it took so much confidence from me just to say this one sentence. In hindsight, I noticed that not really that many words are needed to get your metro tickets. Either you can just show the number of tickets you need with your fingers, or I've seen it so many times that people would just slide money across the counter and get a ticket without saying a word. Yeah. Also, that we are talking about tickets, when you come to Germany, ticketing might be a bit complicated, because in Ukraine you only have single tickets, but in Germany you will have tariff zones, and depending on how far you're traveling, the ticket will have a different price. In Ukraine, it does not matter whether you only travel for one stop or an entire line, it will always be the same price, and they are so cheap too, these tickets. I think last year when I was there, it was 8 hryvnias for a metro ticket. I think they increased it to 20 if I'm not mistaken, which is quite a hefty raise, but still that's under €1, and in Germany you pay, in Berlin you have to pay like €3 for a regular ticket, and it's even worse in Hamburg. I think Hamburg has the most expensive public transport tickets in Germany. But yeah, you have tariff zones, and you have to check the plan, like the schedule, how much you have to pay for. In Berlin, it's not that complicated. You only have 3 tariff zones. But in Hamburg, you have like, God knows how many fare zones. And it still confuses me, although it's my hometown. And then you have child tickets, you have regular adult tickets, you have student tickets, you have bike tickets, you have God knows how many tickets. So yeah, our ticketing is a bit complicated. Then another thing about tickets, I'm talking so long about tickets. In Ukraine, you have barriers before you go to the platform. you have to pass through a barrier where you scan your ticket and then you can pass through a turnstile. So literally you cannot enter the platform or the metro without a ticket. In Germany, we do not have this. So it is very easy to evade the fares, but if you get caught, it will be even worse. Like, we have like people who check tickets and they would randomly get on any random metro carriage and check everybody's ticket there. So oftentimes you can actually get away with it, but if they come and check, I mean, sometimes I would not get checked for an entire year, but recently I got checked 3 times within 1 week, so it really happens at random. And if you get caught, you have to pay a fine of 60 euros and you'll embarrass yourself in public. Yeah, but yeah, that's that about tickets. I actually could make an entire video just about metro, just because the metro is one of the things I love most about Ukraine. They are like a lot more aesthetic than the metro stations we have here. Like, where's all the trash? Where are the piss stains? Where's the vandalism? I don't know. Germans just have the desire to vandalize absolutely everything with some ugly graffitis, and I did not see that at all in Ukraine. And these escalators, oh my god, they are so fast, but in Kiev that is, but they have to be, because the Kiev metro system is actually the deepest metro system in the world. The deepest station is Arsenalna. It is more than 100 meters deep, and although the escalator is ridiculously fast, it still takes almost 5 minutes to get down from the top to the platform, or vice versa. And in Ukraine, you would not see anybody walking up or down the escalators. In Germany, you would get on the escalator and still walk up or down. I do it, but our escalators are way shorter, so yeah, nobody would walk on Ukraine's long escalators. And the metro is just as fast. It is loud, but it's really fast and convenient. What I love about Berlin's metro system is that it is very developed. You do not need a driving license or a car when you live in Berlin, just because our public transport can get you anywhere in no amount of time. Okay, maybe I say that because I live very central, but for example, I would not say that about Hamburg. Hamburg has a very nice and modernized metro. Berlin still has like old carriages from the 60s. Okay, some lines have modernized carriages, but not all of them. But in Hamburg, we have a river running through Hamburg, which is the Alster. Okay, we love our Alster, but the metro has to go around the Alster instead of over or under it. Okay, we have some lines that go over it, like over a bridge, but not all of them, so they go around it, and so everything takes extra long. Kiev only has 3 metro lines, so not all parts of the cities are connected to the metro system, but still I love Kiev metro so much. But not only can you ride trains underground in Ukraine, you can also cross the road underground in Ukraine. Like, in order to cross any major street in Kiev, you would use an underpass, and they are completely not a thing in Germany, and they got me some time to get used to as well, but I actually really like them. And if you do have to cross a road overground, with the underpasses it's only like the major roads like Reshatik, there's no way you would cross that overground, but like the smaller streets you would cross them normally overground. But if you do that, you just have to hope that you make it alive, not gonna lie. Especially with like zebra crossings, I always wait if there's a car approaching whether they will actually stop or not. In Germany they mostly stop, but not always, so I always make sure they will actually stop. So oftentimes in Ukraine the cars would approach really fast, and I was like, no, there's no way he's stopping. But then they would stop and make some sort of gesture, like, just cross, and then I would be like, sorry. Talking about roads, let's talk about road conditions. Okay, German roads are obviously not immaculate, but in Ukraine, okay, I've been previously warned about Ukrainian road conditions, and I was actually surprised that they were actually okay-ish, but that's probably just the major roads that lead into Kiev that are alright-ish. For example, when I was going from the airport to the city centre of Kiev, the road, like the major road, the motorway, was closed because there was an accident and the driver had to turn off the road into some sort of side alley, and that was bumpy. Potholes, they're definitely a thing in Ukraine. And the pavements are actually, I would almost say, in worse conditions than the road. I definitely had to walk with my head kept down to mind my step, because I'm clumsy. I even manage to trip over my feet when there is immaculate pavement, not gonna lie, but that's just me. And one of the last things about traffic, I was amazed by the density of petrol stations on the motorway. Like, basically every 10 meters, okay, not that much, but it felt like it, is a petrol station. So when you're driving on the road in Ukraine, running out of fuel would be the least of fears. Worry about the road conditions, but not about running out of fuel. And lastly, let's talk about following some basic rules. Okay, I'm not really ending this video on a good note, I realized that. Back to the metro. I was taught as a little child, when I was riding the metro together with my mum, that you would let the people who want to get off first before you yourself get on the metro. And I thought this was like a universal thing, apparently, but no, it isn't. Like, I would obviously do the same thing when I was in Ukraine getting on the metro, but no, people don't wait. People would get on and off at the same time. And again, like, following some basic rules, I was just amazed by the lack of that, especially because I was traveling during the height of the pandemic last year. So now most COVID restrictions were removed, but when I was traveling to Ukraine last in July 2021, they were definitely still a thing, but it was just a guideline. People would not actually follow them. I was surprised by the amount of people who would not wear masks on the metro, although the metro was always crammed. Here, it's still mandatory to wear a mask on public transport, and people do it less and less. But people are just fed up by the pandemic. Okay, maybe that's just Berlin. Berliners are not the greatest at following rules as well, but in Hamburg, you'd get yelled at if you don't wear a mask on the metro. They take it a lot more serious. Also with like distancing. When I was in Kiev queuing up for a ticket, there were these lines on the floor so that you could keep distance. And obviously I would stand on these lines, and then multiple times it would happen that a person would cut into the line in front of me just because they thought I would not be in line, just because I kept so much distance, although I was just contributing to the stop of the pandemic. And also, if you ever notice anywhere a person waiting at a red traffic light at 3 a.m. when there's literally no traffic, they got to be German, just because German tend to be rule followers. We like our Recht und Ordnung, okay? Don't blame us. And that's actually everything I noted down for cultural differences between Germany and Ukraine. If you have any other suggestions, feel free to leave them in the comments below, and I will see if I can film a part 2 if you like. Until next time, Slava Ukraini, and bye.